Welcome, stranger. Been a while. A customer sent me a Canon FT-QL, and I thought now would be a good time to do a video on removing a DIY on removing the top cover. And the FT is really a pretty easy camera to work on. In fact, they're fun to work on. But the timing of the speed control knob, when you take that off, can throw off a customer. An amateur goes in there, might take it off, the top cover, reassemble it, and then wonder why exposures are off. And that's the reason why is the speed control. You got to make some timing marks, and then when you come out, you got to reset it. And while I'm in there, I can show you a little bit about why, as well as how. And let's get started. All right, what should we start with? Oh, maybe a quick inspection. Got a Canon FT-QL. This camera was, I think they started making it in '66, although you could go look it up if you want to. So it's a fairly early camera, all mechanical. It has what? This right here flips up the mirror. So for timed exposures, maybe astronomy at that time. This is your PC plug. It had no hot plug here on the top. You had to put on your flash and then run a cord down to this. This over here is your self timer, but it's also your turns on your meter. The early something like a Pentax, when you look through them, you stopped down your lens and got your exposure right. But then you also had to compose your picture at the same f-stop, and the viewfinder would get dark if you were down like at f16. So Canon built this right here. Get the light on it here. Let's see, let's switch cameras over here. When I push in, if you'll look right down there, you'll see that lever go across. That stops down your lens. So what you did on this particular camera is you pressed this over, took your meter reading or your exposure setting, and then it went back and you had a bright viewfinder again for composing your picture, which was an advancement at that time. Go back here. So this camera, although it seems crude to us maybe now or simple, was at its time it was state of the art. Okay, let's continue and get that knob off. Let me switch to this right here. Okay, the first thing you do on this particular camera is you take your battery out. Actually, you need to take the battery out on any camera you work on. I learned later on the electronic cameras, if you didn't take the battery out, quite often you could damage the electronics while you're working on the camera. You would short something with your tweezers or a screwdriver and damage the circuits. So all repairmen learn quickly the first thing you do before you work on a camera is remove the battery. Probably would not hurt one of these old mechanical cameras, but it's something to be aware of. And a little history here. Why did they put the battery up here, you might ask, instead of down here like they did on later cameras? The reason was that early cameras had very little electronics. In fact, they weren't even just a circuit board, really. And this side over here had your advanced and your speed control. And over here, there's a lot of room. You just had your galvanometer here, and the rest of this pretty much was empty. So on the early cameras, they had like a photo cell here normally, before batteries. But on some of the earlier cameras, it was very laid out very nice, you might say. You had your battery here, and your circuit board here, and your galvanometer here. It was very compact and very nicely laid out in the sense that everything to control the meter, which normally was a needle, was in this small area here, which made it much easier for a repairman to work on. And I will show you this once I get the top cover off. But that's why they had the batteries up here. They started out with photocells, then batteries, and then they started putting the batteries down here, and they started putting other things up here. The electronics got much more complicated. A second thought here, as long as I'm here, this stud right here, quite often I would take the battery out and it would be green, which told me that the customer had left the battery in the camera too long. It had leaked, and they cleaned out they put another battery in it and cleaned it, but the acid from the battery worked its way into the electronics here, and eventually the meter would fail, and it was sent to me quite often for that, and I would have to replace the electronics. A good rule to follow if you are using a camera is to replace the battery once a year, preferably something like on your birthday. Even if the battery looks brand new, even if the battery is fully charged and the camera hasn't been used. Always replace the battery once a year, and you won't ever have to send it to a repair shop for a leaking battery that has damaged your camera. A battery only costs a few dollars, maybe today $5, but it's certainly a lot cheaper than paying someone like me to go in and have to work on your camera and replace all the wires, because the acid has worked its way inside. Okay, let's get this knob off here. On this particular camera, they put the release on the bottom, which was quite common. On all cameras, the release started out, when they started making cameras, was on the bottom, not on the top. Later, they put the door release and attached it to this rewind knob. Very handy, but not the best. The other was better. Quite often, a person would lose this knob and then, fooling around, accidentally knock this shaft down the side. And if the camera back was closed, there was no way to get the camera back open. You'd have to take it to a repair shop, and a repairman could do it. But also, there was a tab in here, right about here, that engaged this knob, and quite often the customers would pull up too hard, and they'd bend that tab. And once they bent that tab and closed the back, the next time they wanted to open the camera and pull up, they would pull up, but the back would not open because they had bent the tab. The tab was it was good metal, but it wasn't strong enough that a customer, was thought maybe he's working on a car, but he pulled up too hard. Or he would do it repeatedly over a period of time. He would pull up this one and that one, and eventually it would bend the tab far enough that all of a sudden this would not open the back anymore. And so that's just something to be aware of. If you're opening the back in your camera, pull it up only enough to open the back. Don't pull it any further. Okay, let's get this knob off. Talking here long enough. There's your prongs. I've told you in other videos not to use a screwdriver. Use something like a flat nose pliers, or in this case my tweezers. You don't want to damage those prongs, and a screwdriver will damage them. The second thing is, don't pull this lever out to help you remove this knob. Just use your fingers. Those levers will break off. On this particular camera, it's real easy. Just screws off. Nothing's gonna jump out at you. And let's see here. Switch cameras here. There's a little washer here, and there are some parts on cameras that for some reason they get lost real easy. And this is one of them, this little washer here. I've worked on many cameras, and when I got ready to put it back together, it was lost. It's because it's so small. Here we go. You can put the knob back on without this washer, but it won't be factory anymore. It's just something to be aware of. Be careful with it. It does get lost easy. I always like to warn our repairmen about parts that for some reason get lost real easy. You have to keep track of them. Okay. Now we're back on this side. Next parts will be to remove will be the advance lever and the speed control. And so, okay, let's move on. Okay, the next thing we're going to be looking at here is removing is the speed control and the advance lever. Since the speed control has a timing marks that I need to explain, we're going to remove the advance lever first. Plus, I've always kind of liked to get this lever out of the way so I have access to the control knob without anything around it bothering me or getting in the way. So let's switch cameras here. And as you can see, this decor cover has two holes in it, which Canon kindly provided us. The Nikon did not have these holes, and maybe it looked better, but it made camera repairmen, it made our life very uncomfortable because getting these caps off sometimes is a problem because there's nothing to grip, no edge. And so we always appreciated it, or at least I did, that Canon put the holes in these decor caps. And let's see if I can get these in here or not. Like so. It is a standard, okay, try it again. It is a standard right, so you want to go counterclockwise. And break it loose like that. And unscrew that like so. There we go. I've mentioned it in other videos, but these caps have a very I'll get it here. Have a very small screw. I guess you would call it a nut. And when you're putting it back together, you don't want to use, on a 1 to scale 10, you don't want to use a 4 or a 5. Quite often these caps are made of brass, and these will break off. So at the most use about a 3 as far as torque in putting back together. It's not a danger on some parts, but these caps, I've had these nuts break off inside, and it's something to be concerned about. So if I don't mention it, remember, you don't want to break that nut off, the threads down in this hole here, or it's going to ruin your whole day. So what else do we have here? We've got this, call it a collar. Can I get it off? I tell you, trying to repair on a monitor is hard. If you ever try it, whoops, we pulled off 2 parts. Okay. As you can see, it has a notch, a stud here and a stud here, and that goes down in that hole there and there, and keeps it from turning, keeps it in place. So let's put that over in the Petri dish. This right here is what I call a spring washer, It wobbles. It's pressing the top and the bottom. And it keeps your lever here from just free moving like this, and keeps it in place. It puts some resistance on it. Okay, we lift that up. Has a stud on the advanced lever, which is normal for most cameras. Set that aside. And the last part on there is this, usually on all cameras there's some kind of wheel that engages the center shaft here. The center shaft nearly in all these SLRs goes down through your takeout spool down to the bottom of the camera and turns gears which charge your camera. Sometimes part of the mechanism's up here at the top, but most of the time the gears that need to be charged are down here in the bottom. And everything's always made of steel because there's a lot of torque involved. And this usually just fits on over that. And let's see if I can get this off on camera. There we go, it came right off. And it looks like that. Oh, and I forgot one thing, which, shame on me, I should have mentioned it sooner. I always mark all my parts. See, 45 years later, I still mark them. And as an amateur or a DIYer, you should also, like so. The marks are always facing forward from the camera, and it's a reminder to me that when I replace the part, this is the way it goes. You can see the notch here on this, that goes around what, 5 o'clock, 6 down to about 4. But and you'll say, well, I'll remember that. But what if you're an amateur, and what if it's your first time being in the camera? And what if life gets in the way and you don't get back to the camera for several weeks later? Sure, you'll figure it out, but it'll take up time. So that's it. The advanced leader is off. It's very simple. There was nothing really to it. But again, a lot of people have never worked on cameras and they're beginners, and so I have to show it step by step. If you're an advanced repairman on cameras, why, of course, this is kind of tedious and slow, but that's not who these videos are made for. They're made for the absolute beginner. So let's move on. Okay, the next thing we want to do is remove this speed control here. The speed control I left to last because hit the wrong button. It has to be, the timing has to be exact. If you just pull the speed wheel off at any location, when you're putting it back, you won't know exactly where it goes and you'll throw your exposure off. As true as on all SLRs, you need to preset it at a location for purposes of timing. On this particular camera, I like to set it at X at 25 ASA. X at 25 ASA. And that way, when I set my timing marks, I know that the speed knob has to be set at X25 to match it. And it gives me a starting point to work from in case I have problems. So, next thing we need to do is remove this center nut. And I probably will not be able to do this on camera because my eyesight's not that good, but we can try. There and there. And counterclockwise, since it's the right. That wasn't very tight. Okay. That's enough. There we go. Got it off there. Back down here. Let's Move in just a little bit. And grab that like so. There we go. Again, move that out of the way. That nut will break off. It's probably brass. And when you're putting it back on the camera, if you tighten it much more than a 3 on a scale 1 to 10, you will break it off into the camera. As I've warned in this video and many other videos. I know because I've done it. And that's the reason I'm so sensitive to it. Put that in the Petri dish. Put this back over here. Under that nut is a washer right here. Go ahead and get it out of there, which you don't want to lose. You want to make sure you put it back. If you do break off that nut, you'll break it off right into there. Just like if you break the other one over here, you'll break it off into here. I tell you these things to warn you, so you don't make the mistake I did. Nobody, I say nobody, none of the other tutorials are going to warn you about things like these. And that's why I'm telling you. Because I sometimes watch other tutorials to see what not to do. Now, underneath this wheel here, there's a stud right about here. And it goes into a hole. And when you pull the speed knob up, that hole is going to move. It's going to come somewhere over here. And that's the problem, is that amateurs will take off the speed wheel, not realizing that underneath this gear under here, this plate, is going to move. So when they reassemble the camera, they put it in the wrong position and it throws their exposure off. So what you want to do, and this is not that hard, you raise it up slightly, stick a blade in there, and then go ahead and take it off. And what we've got now is we've kind of held it in place. It's not really hard to hold, but the hole that stud goes in is right here. But you can see this plate has 4 of them for some reason. And you can get confused as to which one. So we put in our timing mark now. You'll put a timing mark on any camera that you're working on, and you'll put them on timing marks real often. These can come out with alcohol, don't worry about it. Okay, it's lined up, 12 o'clock. Always make your timing marks pointed forward. This is about 10 o'clock. Now I'm going to release it. Now as you can see, it has moved. You never know how far it's going to go. I've seen them come clear over to this point here, and this one here is barely moving. But still, an amateur would pull the speed wheel off, not realizing even that this has moved. And then when he reassembled it, he wouldn't know which hole to put his steed. I guess I'll move over here and get this. Here's your speed knob. Here's your stud. He would not know which hole to put this stud into. And he'd mess up his exposure because his speed wheel would be in the wrong position. The reason I set it at X25 because I wanted the stud to come right to this point. Not for any other reason, the fact that I know that it's got, when I repair cameras, that this particular camera, the stud should be right here. And when I put it on, it should be like this. The stud should be right here, actually in about a 10 o'clock position. And that gives me a little clue in case I get in trouble and everything's coming undone, that this hole needs to be right about here for the stud. When I reassemble the camera, I'm going to have to turn this plate around and move it to about 10 o'clock and drop the speed control back on it. And that's basically what I wanted to show you. The mistake that beginners make when they're removing the speed control is that you need to move it to X25, hold it in place, mark it, and then release it. And so at least you've, if you get in trouble, you've got a beginning point. You kind of know where it should be, as opposed to an amateur who doesn't know what he's doing and just pulls it off and has no idea which hole it goes into or where it's supposed to be or what's going on. Okay, that's it. There, all we need now is to remove the screws. We'll start on those next. Okay, we are recording. All right, we've got the advance off and the speed knob and the rewind knob. Now all we need to do is remove this screw here, 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 and here, and the top will lift right off. So I'm wondering if I can do this on camera or not. Probably not. Parts are so small. There we go. Got it in there. This first one on the front that comes out has a flat head, and you need to know that. So when you put it back, the other three have rounded shoulders. I'm going to show you here in a minute on another lens the difference. But make sure you can put all four screws together somewhere. But remember that the flat one goes in the front here. So I'm going to put this in the Petri dish like so. And now I'm going to go ahead and remove the other three. And we'll go from there. Okay, I'm recording again. I had to stop my camera and change lenses. And looking now for a screwdriver to show you something. Not that important. This right here, this screw here, if you look, has a flat head. And this one over here has shoulders. When I remove the screws from the top cover, 3 of them have rounded shoulders and 1 has a flat head. The flat head one goes in the front, right over the lens. The rest of them are rounded like this one here. On early cameras, they used different screws at different points in the cameras, and it made it confusing because they look an awful lot alike. And an amateur will put the wrong screw in the wrong hole. Later, like with an AE1, they just simplified it by using 1 screw for everything, like on the top cover. But on these early cameras, they had specialized screws. I don't know why. Maybe it was a carryover from earlier times. But it won't hurt the camera as far as taking pictures. But I just wanted you to know that the 4 screws, 3 have rounded shoulders, and 1's a flathead. Now there are in certain cameras where if you put the wrong screw in the wrong hole, you can cause problems. Like at the A1, this screw here, right here, on the front is shorter than the others. And if you put a longer screw on the front of the A1, you'll press it into the prism and crack it. I know because I've done it. And there it's important because of the length. It's a shorter length than the others. But most of the time, it doesn't hurt a camera to put a screw in the wrong place, But I just wanted to make you aware that on this camera, you've got rounded and you've got flat. And as you're working on the camera, it's just something to watch out for. Okay, switch back now. Okay, I'm back. Here in the Petri dish, you can see the 4 screws from the top cover. And you can see the flat-headed one facing up toward the camera. Very easy to identify. All right, that's enough of that. Let's set this aside. Now we're going to get back to removing the top cover part of the video. Move my camera over here a little bit. Sorry about that. It takes time when you're working with 2 cameras or 3 to get everything centered and focused. Okay, here's the top cover. Now, when you remove the top cover, you want to make sure that you don't lift this off accidentally. It's not secure. It will raise up, and if it does, the gears inside, which I'll show you separately in a second here, we'll see how I'm not touching it. Coming straight up and off. And what is it I wanted to show you here? We'll look at that now. Remember, this is a beginner video, so everything is will be explained. Get a block under here in detail. Now, gotta catch the light on it just right. Let's see, right here. This plate here that I told you to be careful not to raise up, you can see it has gears here. And they're engaged to these gears over here on this wheel. And if you raise up, the camera loses its timing. And so you want to make sure when you take the top cover off that you don't lift this up, that you keep it engaged, this gear here. Okay. Now, sorry about that. Hit the lamp. All right. Here we go. A camera repairman would not have to do what I'm about to show you, but one who's working on his own camera or a beginner needs to do this, and you'll understand why when you work on your own. Okay, here's the wheel that the knob goes on. Here's your timing mark. Timing mark needs to be here at 12 o'clock. This hole right here I'm pointing at needs to be over here at about 10 o'clock when you reassemble the camera. So what we're going to do is this right here. We're going to put our fingers here on the left, holding a position so nothing can move, and we're going to move that back up to about 12 o'clock, like so. Now, with a little bit of luck, we're going to get back in that hole, and we are. I can feel it. It's inside. And we're back as if the top cover were still on. We got the speed knob engaged. Okay, now I'm going to press it down to make sure nothing gets away from me. And I'm going to put this like so. And I don't know if I can do this on camera, but I'm going to try to screw it back in. It's going in. The camera gods are with me. You never know. Sometimes you're on the floor. I'm going to maybe tighten those a little bit. Maybe I'm pressing my luck here. Okay, that's not tight at all, just snug. All right, so you might be asking why we put the speed control knob back on after going to all that trouble to take it off. Well, a full-time camera repairman probably wouldn't, but somebody who's working on their own camera, an amateur, DIY, should always put the speed control back on as I showed you. And the reason is for this right here. Put a block under this and try to get it in close. Right over here, this stud stays in place. It holds this bracket down. the bracket moves back and forth. So what we want to do is we want to put a mark on this stud and a mark on the bracket. And they don't line up perfectly, but you get the point. And the same over here, kind of as a backup. You want to put a mark right here where the gear engages the bracket. It's not this mark here is not as important. It's just a backup, just in case. In fact, I'll just not even refer to that anymore. I can't quite see it. And I gotta put this cap back on my marker. It's gonna dry out. All right, we've got our marker here, which, you know, if you've taken off the top, put on your speed control, you've put on there. Now, as I change the speed, you will see the marker now is over here. Stud is here. This stud here goes down to the galvanometer, and it's connected to the needle in the viewfinder. Watch as it goes down that slide over. So when you're changing the speeds on your camera, what you're doing is you're moving the stud on the galvanometer up and down. And your needle in the viewfinder is telling you you're underexposed or overexposed. I don't know how good of a system I'd call this. I guess for 1966 it was as good as anything they had at that time. Let's go all the way to X. So, if while you were taking off the top cover, if the gear here on your speed control became disengaged from this gear here, this brass gear, what would happen is it over here, this slide would probably move over to about there. So when you took the top cover off, you wouldn't know where it goes. Amateurs quite often don't. The tutorials on the YouTube don't always explain timing like this, and so when they put their control knob back on, they don't know where it goes. So then their exposures are not accurate, and they might spend hours trying different positions, not really understanding what they're doing. So the first thing you want to do is put your control knob back on and mark this right here. So you've got your timing mark, and you want to mark it here as a backup. I've occasionally had these rub off when I was working on cameras before, because they do so real easy with a little bit of, if your finger touches them. So move that out. If you're working on your camera and you've got to remove the prism to replace it, or you've got to replace the eyepiece, you've got to get this bracket here off. And it's real easy. This stud here, it rides in a lip, and it rides in a lip here. So you move it back to about this point here, to where it's in this hole. This lip on this galvanometer also is holding it down, so you have to push this up, lift this up, and lift this out here. Usually this top side comes up first, and it will disengage that lip. And you get it out of the way, so you can replace the eyepiece, or you can replace the prism. So when you reassemble it, you know just to do that again, here and here, engage it. You'll have to set your timing knob on, of course, if you've taken it off. And you'll need to line up these timing marks. And you need to put, you need to engage the gears and put on your speed knob to where it's located at X25 with these above each other, these timing marks in line. Sounds complicated, or maybe not, counting how much experience you've had with mechanical cameras, but that's basic it right there. Just you can see how somebody who's never worked on cameras, an amateur who hasn't seen this video, if he just pulls this knob off and this bracket starts moving left or right, he won't know where it goes when he puts it back together. He won't know where to engage this brass gear to this bracket. He won't know where to engage the speed control to this gear here underneath it. And so when he puts it back, he will, but the exposure will be all messed up because this stud here could be anywhere from here to up here or anywhere in between. And that's why you want to put your speed control back on and mark it. Now if you had, I put it at X. If I had put it at B and it's at 25 here, I don't know how it goes, let's say 1600, your bracket would be over here real far, and your stud would be here, and you could put a timing mark on it at that point. But I always chose X at 25 because the stud on the galvanometer is at the bottom of the slide, and there's very little pressure on it. If you put it at the top, it can run down the slide. It's always got tension on it, and it's harder to get the camera back together. Better to put the stud on the galvanometer at the bottom. Move it here, see how it moves down. You can see it's being pressed by this wire here. You move it to the bottom, you've removed most of the tension. The slide can still move a little bit, but not nearly as much. Makes the job a lot easier. So always set your camera at X, 25. Try to take it off so it doesn't lose its timing. And put your speed control back on while you're working on your camera. It's not really bothering anything over here. Just leave it on and go ahead and remove your slide. Do whatever work you need to do, and then put the slide back using this timing mark here, keeping your speed knob at X25. And that's mainly what I wanted to show you about the camera. Not the rewind or removing the advance, but this speed control, galvanometer, bracket relationship. A few more things before we reassemble the top cover. Let's see, we'll move this over here and get in close. There's two pod adjustments on this particular camera. One's here, one's here. This controls the battery check. I would just leave it alone. Normally when you check your battery, you check it at, I think it's 1000 at 25, and the needle should be above the circle. The battery check switch is right here, and quite often it gets corroded. Usually when the camera's tops off, I clean that. But and when there's a switch on top of the rewind knob that you press, set your speed control to 1025, and inside the needle should move above the circle. Anyway, I would just go ahead and leave this alone. It never needs adjustment. The exposure control is controlled here, this pot here. I forget which way, up or down, controls under over exposure, but that's your adjustment. And I've always just used this right here. And I've got one more thing to show you, and it's the other room, so I guess I better pause the camera. Okay, I'm back. What I wanted to show you was in the other room. I don't script these videos or fact check them. It would take too much time. And I repair cameras full time. These are I shoot these in the spare time I've got. Anyway, this pot here I told you changes the exposure, and I forget whether it's all I'll get it here eventually, whether it goes up here or down here. But as the photocell gets weaker and weaker, and as you adjust it over the years, finally you run out of adjustment. There is nothing left. The photocell just gets weaker and weaker. Here's the photocell. It goes behind the prism at the back, and 2 leads there. It eventually will have to be probably replaced. There's no place to order them, so normally I'll just buy cameras off eBay and keep buying them till I get another photocell that's in good shape. I don't know exactly what causes them to eventually wear out, but it happens to all photocells. So anyway, I just wanted to show that to you. The when I say behind it's down in there. It's buried. I don't know exactly how it gets its light. It must get the light off the prism. As the light comes up in the prism, it shines over on the photocell and is wired into this circuit. And this pot here, like I said, controls the I don't know what you call it, but anyway, controls the amount of current that goes to the galvanometer. Maybe somebody better in electronics could explain that. I just repair them. Anyway, okay, what else? There's no circuit board. There's just this little board here for soldering. That your photocells are 2 wires are soldered in here. And what else? I may or may not have told you that if your battery leaks, the acid gets in here and goes into all the wires that are here and over here. And you want to replace the battery in your camera at least once a year so that acid never gets in there. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Okay, we're at the halfway point. That speed control and bracket took longer than I thought that it would take to explain it. Those of you that have prior experience repairing cameras might want to stop the video now and just go ahead and put your top cover back on when you get ready. For those of you that are beginners, you might want to watch the second half, because along the way I might be able to give you a few pointers or explain something or give you some history or something. Anyway, this is the midpoint and this is the break point, and I'll see you in a little bit.